So the next panel is going to discuss how e-commerce and content immersive experiences are crafted together using Sanity. So this panel is hosted by Even Westvang, our co-founder and lead of the applications team, which I'm sure Evan can chat a little bit more about. But the panel also includes Kusum Kanwar, product lead at Shopify, and Sam Mathews, the founder and CEO at Fnatic. Be sure to stick around for the open house after this discussion and conclusion of the panels today. Knut will come on afterwards and help transition us to that point. But for now, thank you and welcome to Evan, Kusum, and Sam.
Thank you so much, TG. I'm just going to try to preface this sort of briefly with why we're sort of here. So this is a discussion on content and commerce. And it's sort of safe to say that the e-commerce market has gone through like 10 years of change in the past 20 sort of months. And there's been a lot of change both in scale and in user expectations. And we see a lot of people using Sanity for commerce, and it's sort of been like this long-term organic trend for us. And we think the reason for this is that Sanity was designed for structured content, and structured content lets you layer content on top of products and experience on top of products. And many of these customers, they use Shopify. So I'm sort of super glad to have both Shopify here and a sort of common user of our sort of systems. So to shed some light on this content and commerce intersection, we have with us Shopify. It's a Canadian e-commerce backend used by roughly 1.7 million merchants in 175 countries, and Fnatic, one of the world's largest esports organizations. And it's then Kusum Kanwar, product lead at Shopify, who's passionate about content and product experiences, and Sam Mathews, the CEO of Fnatic, whose mission, I read in an article, is to get esports into every household in the entire world. So I have a couple of sort of questions for you. And the first one is, how do you think content and perhaps more widely stated experience, why is it important for e-commerce?
Well, I guess I'll take that, considering I'm not making the platform. For us, it's like we are a content machine, right? We have 8 different games. We have 30 million fans across different channels. Means you have to service a lot of different audience target demographics. If you see what I mean, there's people who might be fans of one game but not another. There's people who are more creator led versus the actual core esports or sports side of gaming. And so, we have a lot of people coming to our website every day, and they might be checking out a talent page, they might be checking out a game page, they might be learning more about Fnatic or the about section. And in the past, it was kind of this siloed experience where you had like your e-commerce shop and your website, and it would be 2 independent things, and you have to move people over there when you want to get them to buy something. We don't think that that's like the natural flow of things, right? We want people to be anywhere on the site there's a relevancy to a product. That could be on a community discussion, it could be on a talent page, it could be on like a piece of video content. You could actually buy from that where you immediately are, right? So it's kind of like you have the persistent checkout, you have that checkout experience. So, it's just about making something so much more appealing to the end user and not having to, put them into this old school kind of shop flow, as it were. And that's just the beginning. I think there's so much more that we want to do with this.
Is this sort of like is this a general thing that you also see, Kusum, that people want to sort of like to sort of get the products out of this product display page sort of context? It's a thing that we have been thinking about for a sort of long time, that it seems to be sort of like you have websites are made in a million different ways to support different experiences, but it's very often sort of like products are sold in these matrices, and then you click through and there's a product display page, and it seems to be that is it sort of for very many sites.
Right. I mean, for Shopify, we are the merchant's way to differentiate their brand. Like, we call ourselves the home of the merchant on the internet, right? We are where the merchant can express their brand in their unique, compelling way. So absolutely, all the merchants that we're working with are constantly asking us, how do I differentiate my brand? How do I present my unique brand expression, the ethos of my brand, but consistently across channels as well? So for us as commerce, I think content and commerce are interchangeable, because where the buyer is first experiencing the brand is through content. And it shouldn't be that PDP grid that you're talking about, right? Like I asked my son this morning, he's 3.5, and I said, what did you love about that toy store we walked into? And he said, I could see all the toys that I wanted in one place. And I think this place was magical. He used the word magical. Yeah. And that's the experience that you're trying to appeal to the buyer. You're trying to help them connect with your brand, whatever that is that the buyer might connect with. And it's not just, constantly barraging them with a PDP and just having them buy, because you're establishing a connection. So absolutely, I think for us, the Shopify, particularly because that is what we are, like we are giving the merchant their true brand expression. Content is critical, and that's why we see a lot of merchants wanting to use, Sanity to augment that brand, to build those special brand experiences and then serve them in contextual commerce experiences.
Do you think like there's a parallel here to in brick and mortar sort of stores? Are there sort of, because they also come in different sort of flavors also. You can go to stores where things are on sort of pallets and it's just no care is taken to sort of present things at sort of all, or you can go like to very sort of nice retail spaces in the center of big cities where someone has taken proper care to sort of present products in a specific way. Do you think there's sort of like a parallel here between sort of strip malls and flagship stores, and that there is a separation in sort of this market in terms of how brands are engaging with the products?
I absolutely believe there is a parallel, but there's also a merging of sorts, because you really should be able to have your brick and mortar expression in the brand that you're representing online, and vice versa. And you can learn from each other, right? We're building more hyper-personalized commerce experiences in your storefront online. And when you're in the brick and mortar store, you can benefit from the consistency of what you get online, and, pricing and discounts and personalization based on what you bought before, your order history, your shipping and return history. So I feel like they can learn from each other, but I do think that the brand consistency and also the way you communicate your brand should be, there should be a parallel, and there should be a merging of the two worlds, where you walk into the store or you go online and it feels like a cohesive experience.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about like the difference between going into a store, which is packed with the kind of sale sign and loads of products crammed together, and then you walk into like a Nike store and it's almost like you get a feel for the lifestyle that you're actually going to live by buying those things or doing those things. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to, the similarity I think we want to do is that, like, if you're looking at your favorite gamer and he's like one of the world's best, or she is, and you below hand you see like this person uses this on their desk setup, and it's got their actual desk setup, and it's got a picture of it, and you can go through and look at why they use those products and make it an experience so much more immersive. And I think that is kind of a similar experience to the Nike store experience versus Amazon, perhaps, which is obviously very transactional, and you're going there for the lowest price.
Because I was thinking, Sam, that you have, like you were saying, it's this media powerhouse, right? That is sort of like, and there is no brick and mortar legacy here. Rather, sort of like the media and the social experience around the sort of media is where the fans are, and it's where the players are, and it's very much a sort of lived first-person experience of being inside that sort of space. And what you can then do with this way of engaging sort of products in these contexts is then, I guess, to let some of the aura of sort of the sort of spill over onto the product. And I think it's really interesting to see you do that. When you like leaf through the store, there are the players and they are sort of close to these products. And I think that is an interesting way of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I would say probably less than 1% of our budget goes to like performance marketing, right? We're using, like, mostly it's our whole growth is driven by content and creators or influencers and our pro talent, and that means that like you know, it's a double-edged sword because, you know, we're not like that sophisticated when it comes to these but performance funnels, as it were. But at the same time, that's why Sanity's led and Shopify combined is led so well, because if you think about what's happened in the history of products online, is that people have become dependent on that kind of, you know, drug that is, you know, Facebook and Instagram performance marketing led funnels, and they've kind of become very cookie cutter because that kind of what performed. But I think we're starting to see people break out from that kind of experience when shopping online. And the thing about Sanity is that like and the way Shopify connects with it is you can have both. So you could have the store where you have the standard page and that has all the basic information. So if you want to experience it through that typical flow, or if you want to do it in a way where you're putting it inside of a 3D world, and you know, we could easily tie that back to the checkout cart and the flow directly from that experience. So that is exactly right. Like content is becoming like king, and that's why most of the brand power is driven by these big influencers now who are really driving the D2C value.
Yeah, exactly. Because this is something that I think we sort of have seen a lot of people using Sanity to sort of do this direct to consumer motion where they want to have control over channel. They want to get it closer to brand, and they also want to engage people with sort of product in different contexts, not only as we were saying in this PDP sort of product display page context. Is this a general thing, Kusum, that Shopify has seen a lot of over the past year? I have a feeling that it's this huge motion in the industry, but I don't have the numbers to back that up.
Well, I don't have numbers for you, but it is definitely a general thing that we're seeing where, you know, as we're hearing, is merchants are selling through non-traditional channels. They're selling, they're not really selling first, they're establishing their brand identity first. Through influencers, through social media, through events and targeted campaigns. And I think the proof of the pudding is that Shopify, we've always been, you know, around creating these immersive experiences for merchants through the online store, which is the merchant's own unique brand. But we recently launched Hydrogen, which and this is where we partnered with you and Sanity to build so that merchants can build completely custom storefronts. So I think we definitely as a company realize and expect merchants to branch off and build these hyper-personalized, unique experiences where we're not giving them cookie cutter shapes, but what we're giving them are the platform scalable tools, and partnering with with content providers such as yourself to build however bespoke, unique experience they want to build, and not just building a website, but building their mobile app or serving that content in a retail space. Wherever. And so it's definitely a general trend where even smaller merchants are wanting to invest in their own specific, what we're calling custom storefront. And this is why, I think we're investing heavily as well in this space of allowing merchants to build these storefronts themselves.
I was going to mention that at the top. I just rushed sort of through it. We did, like you were saying, we did launch a synchronization app for the Shopify marketplace just a few weeks back, and also a prototype, a developer preview for the Hydrogen framework that will run on Oxygen when it launches. We're super stoked about these things because we think that it lets more people and people that are sort of comfortable with React and sort of modern JavaScript frameworks gives them access to and low threshold ways, because it's been many people have been wanting to do this, but it's been hard. So it gives more people access to these technologies and to be able to build these highly sort of personalized experiences that we think will sort of dominate this. I think it's interesting what you were saying, Sam, about sort of very many people having opted into sort of social selling and these very sort of funnel-driven and standardized ways of doing sort of commerce. And I think, I hope at least for all of us that we will sort of see a greater differentiation of these experiences and these markets. It would seem to me that it would make the world just a less boring place to sort of live if we can have this sort of high experience every day instead of having like formatted social experiences inside of feeds.
Yeah. I mean, on that point, like I think one of the things that we're doing is, because we're trying to reach out to hundreds of thousands of gamers, each of them playing different games, maybe interested in different talent. So part of our onboarding flow will be choose your game, choose who you want to follow. And eventually, the more we understand about their preferences, you can change the kind of shopping experience. And I think that's one of the things that e-commerce is so like limiting at the moment, where it's so unpersonalized that like it doesn't, like, if I've already bought a mouse, if I've done these things, if I shouldn't be shown other ones of the same thing all of the time, or like if I'm not interested in a product which is very specific to, like, if in an outdoor climbing, and the app should know more about who you are, maybe in an anonymized way or something. But like, but I just think the personalization part is going to be really big for e-commerce in the next couple of years, which is what this allows.
Yeah, and I can add to that too. Like, I think for us, hyper-personalization is extremely important to offer those as tools to our merchants, where we're learning from customer preferences. And again, in whatever capacity the buyer wants to share those preferences. Like, I would love to tell a merchant, don't keep showing me these size clothes that I don't fit into anymore, right? Like, give me something that I can actually wear. And I think exactly, not in a creepy way. I was noticing a comment in the chat, but and we'd love to help merchants and buyers find that sweet spot where it's not an invasion of privacy, and it's something the buyer actually would like as recommendations. But also then, what you're saying is building an experience. So building the right platform capabilities that gives merchants the ability to create that hyper personalized experience based on the type of buyer, the type of demographic, the type of segment and region. And I think this is where we could definitely start to see a much more richer and less boring world emerge, where we're not all looking at the same PDP. We're not even shopping in the same way, right? Like, how somebody approaches buying is very different, from social to a much more informative way of buying to much more immersive video. And I think that's really where we would like to grow the platform capabilities and bring trust and consistency in the areas that Shopify is great at, and allow merchants to differentiate content, which is where the merchant can truly express themselves creatively.
You've both now mentioned personalization as sort of like a large sort of trend for the next coming sort of years. Do you see other things sort of happening? Where do you think this in what would you think that we would be sort of discussing as the huge recent things in sort of 3 to 5 years time?
I don't know, you trying to drop metaverse? Is this the
No.
Like, is that the kind of, no, but I mean, look, for us, we wanted to use Sanity to control our content layer. We have that kind of headless design where we want to do things in silos and build out a mobile app so that our users can, wherever they are, we can start giving them what they need, if that's content around like one game or another. And I think that goes to, even further, where we can integrate seamlessly into to like their experience and have push notifications and have a proper download of a mobile app, and then in the future potentially have it inside of games, or like have it linked to where you're at in your game. Or and the metaverse is actually, for us, a big thing, because we're gamers, and gamers are going to be like the first citizens of the metaverse. So, I think digital items for us is going to be huge, not even physical. So you're having different experiences, which aren't just like 7 photos of a 2D thing, but actually like go put that on and check it out with your VR headset. And I know you can already do AR and a lot of of the e-commerce experiences out there now, but I think just maybe there's a body scanning thing, which I don't know if that's, so you do know what size you are and what you're going to fit into. Like, it's one of the biggest problems of all the shopping sites out there right now, is that like whoever really reads the size guide. I mean, like, but that's maybe just my user experience here. It's like, I would just love to know how a product was going to look on me, like, once and for all, without having to worry. And then it's like brick and mortar retail will become a lot less valuable.
Well, I think there's two things for me. One is the emergence of content itself as a product. I mean, it's been there for a while. It's not a new thing, but I think it's becoming more and more of a product, whether it's educational or entertainment or just being able to connect with the brick and mortar store in a virtual way. And just that connection itself is a product. You might be able to virtually shop in a small street in Paris. And maybe you buy something, or maybe you're just there for the experience of what what you would normally do if you were walking down the street. So I think there's a little more of that merging of virtual and digital worlds. And I do think that, what we as Shopify, we've always been supporting the small business retailers. I think there's still a large area for those to grow and to come up with more bespoke and niche products. I think we're seeing already that people are, even for not just for, I think there's this idea of wants and needs. And, for wants, you want to go to the more niche retailers, but for needs, you're okay to buy from these big box retailers. I think those things are changing. Even for something as simple as laundry detergent, you want something that's eco-friendly, that's sustainable, that, person creating it, maybe they're paying their wage as well. So I think there'll be a lot more of these types of retailers emerging they're small businesses, but they're offering some very niche value. And I think we can help them as a platform to establish what that value is, and not let them get lost in the milieu of 1,000 retailers that have the same looking storefronts. And I do hope brick and mortar stays, because I still think there are many fans of the real world as well. But I do think the consistency that the virtual world can bring to that is very helpful.
I think it's one of the real sort of charms of sort of this, and the way that these technologies are democratizing also, that it brings sort of like global reach to small retailers, and then that these technologies sort of scale all the sort of way from these two-person outfits to international conglomerates. We are at time. Thank you so much for joining us in this short and very illuminating conversation. It's been awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Of course.
Yeah.